Hello and welcome back to Radio NIGP. We're so happy to have our loyal listeners join us again today. Here at Radio NIGP, the word for today is stronger. When I think about the word stronger, I think about challenges that I've had to overcome both personally and professionally during the past 18 to 24 months. So our show today will focus on what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. We have some magnificent guest speakers that we've interviewed that will bring their personal stories to you today and share those with you. And I hope that by the end of the show, you'll think of instances that you've gone through that have made you stronger. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we really look forward to seeing you again.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Keith Ashby. I'm a member of Radio NIGP, and I have the privilege this afternoon to interview Lourdes Cross. And Lourdes, give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Hey, Keith, I'm so glad to be talking with you today. So thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. We got to catch up after this. As you know, I am a former chief procurement officer. I worked for the city of Houston, Cook County. Most of my career, 2 decades of my career, of my 27-year career, were leading transformations in different organizations here in Chicago and then later in Houston. And it was really taking a group from that were perhaps underperforming, of great individuals, and take them on a journey to be the high performing, having a seat at the table, and all the good stuff, all the stuff that we want. So
Great. Now, being working in Chicago, how was it working in Chicago, and what kind of challenges did you have that you'd say, well, I made it through that, it didn't kill me? So what are some of the challenges? Because we always hear about, certain corruptions with maybe procurement officials and people who do that, take kickbacks. So being in that environment, give us an example or tell us a story of something that you had it very, very was challenging for you.
how much time do you have?
I'm here for you.
Well, I had many challenges, and but one of the things that I think that really shook me up and really hit me hard was when I was a chief procurement officer, and one of the things that I wanted to I had been at this other organization leading a transformation. We were on year 3, and we were now starting to enjoy the benefits of that. So I get a request to go to another agency to do the same thing that I, basically the same process that I had led. And my original response was no, because the organization didn't have a very good reputation. As a matter of fact, someone, a high-ranking official, had been escorted in handcuffs for contract fraud, and I said, no, I'm good. And so I get this call on my cell phone from a very high-ranking official, who basically told me, kind of guilt me into it. It says, well, Lourdes, we need you. We need you to come and do the same thing that you did in that organization. And so I put my conditions, and my conditions were, I don't want to be put in a position where my integrity will be compromised. And of course, had a team that wanted to come with, and I said, well, I need to make my team whole. These are my conditions. And so Lourdes, I give you my word. You are not going to be put in an uncomfortable situation. And if that happens, I will, I will be there. So, okay. I mean, so to me, there was no other, of course, and then they committed to making my team whole. So I went, I accepted the position and worked so hard. I think I was a walking heart attack at that time. In 2 years, that commitment lasted 2 years. That word was good for 2 years, because after 2 years, what happened was this one person, a high-ranking official, took credit for everything that we had accomplished, which I'm not that crazy about the credit, but my team deserves some recognition. And I was put in a situation where I had to decide, do I just suck it up and sweep it under the rug and continue in this organization, or so that I can pay my mortgage, or do I just stand on my values and just pray that something else opens up. And so my decision was to stand on my values, and that was very, very hard, because I mean, think about it. Single mom at that time, and having to decide whether to provide for my daughter, or not, or be at a disadvantage there. And so, but that was, as difficult as it was the right decision, and I am glad that I made that decision. Sure, I had some bruises and but what I took from there was the lessons, and the lessons that I learned are very valuable. And these lessons are what make me who I am today. It set an example for my daughter on how to live based on values, and that has no price. So how do you recover from that? Knowing that you're doing the right thing, knowing that wherever you go, you're going to work as hard as you can, that you are trying to give your best, not just the minimum, not just what's required, but overperform. That's my goal, to overperform. And as long as I have that, I'm good. I can move on, and another door will open somewhere. So, I have my faith that that keeps me going. I know I have the experience. I have the qualifications, the training. I've learned from my mistakes and from my experiences. So I have some equipment that I can that I can provide. I have I have something to offer. So
Yeah. So do you want to add anything in closing to our the people in the profession as it relates to some things that we discussed? I see we have a few minutes left. If you want to add anything.
Well, I just first of all want to thank you and Barb and NIGP for the opportunity to speak today, and for the opportunity to share some things about myself. And one thing that I want to make sure that I communicate is, know who you are, and be have that awareness. Know who you are. Where do you want to be? And reflect on those experiences. Get the lessons, and don't let those experiences take you down, because you're stronger than that. So
Right.
I believe it.
And one thing that I started living by is, in making the point, is that each and every day I'm gonna show up as my authentic self.
Very good.
So I'm always going to be the same Keith that you saw yesterday or 2 weeks ago. I'm always going to be my same authentic self. And
Absolutely.
that's a mantra that I say every morning. Keith, when you leave the house, you show up as your authentic self.
Yeah. That's
So,
the only way you can,
yeah,
you
it's true.
sustain it. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's something.
yeah, if you try to be somebody else, it's only a little, a matter of time before you flip, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Welcome to this month's chapter updates, where we will explore the latest chapterific news. Working with members of a volunteer organization is very rewarding, but can be challenging. This month, we'll hear from chapters who went through experiences that thankfully didn't kill them, but definitely made them stronger. 3 chapters went through a merger attempt, and another team established a brand new chapter in the middle of the pandemic. Congratulations to both chapters for persevering and coming out of both experiences better than ever. Speaking of congratulations, please join me in recognizing those chapters who were recently awarded with NIGP's Chapter Performance Standard Seal. These seals are awarded for 1 year to those chapters who each strive to follow and advance the opportunities offered to their members. Participating chapters receive a score which records their progress in achieving excellence. Once a chapter successfully meets the standard, a digital seal is issued, which the chapter can prominently display to their membership on their website and social media outlets. The 4 tiers, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, provide motivation for chapters to achieve an even higher tier in subsequent years. Please visit the Chapter Awards page on NIGP's website to see the 29 chapters who have earned Performance Standard seals. Congratulations to all of you for your efforts and offerings for your membership. Now, a penny for your thoughts. Let's turn the page to this month's chapters for a stronger update.
Hello, my name is Hazel Orrick Gibson, and I am President of the East Tennessee Purchasing Association.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Quattlebaum, MTPPA President.
And my name is Camille Thomas. I'm the President of the Tennessee Association for Public Purchasing.
In 2018, ETPA, TAP, and MTPPA attempted to merge all 3 groups into one statewide procurement organization. Unfortunately, that merger did not pass, and the result of that were some lessons learned by all 3 chapters.
Correct. There was a few hard feelings after the merger did not happen, but what came of that was a great relationship between the 3 chapters. And then we had a new election in the fall of 2019. Where new presidents were selected, and we made it a mission to make sure that all 3 chapters work together, that we come together with unified goals in mind, include each other in our sessions, learning sessions, things of that type.
So one of the things born out of that failed merger attempt was there became a need between the 3 presidents to be unified. So I approached Camille and Jasmine and asked about having a monthly meeting, and I called it the meeting of the minds because, we're all so brilliant, right? So we started meeting on a monthly basis. And one of the things that I found in that was that I developed a better relationship with each of the chapter presidents, but also a better understanding of where each of our chapters are and those things that we can do to help each other going forward. So, and again, as Camille said, we have decided to include each chapter in each of our events and then work together to make sure that those are successful and include the membership.
And some of the lessons that I have learned with these meetings that we are having is that things that my chapter may be struggling with or solutions that I'm looking for, another chapter has already come up with it. Either Hazel or Jasmine has already come up with a great solution to whatever that problem may have been. So when we say that somebody else has the answer, that is true. Someone else does have that answer. And it's networking on a smaller level, but it's important for us to work together and learn from each other, especially during this time when we can't see each other in person. And so we continue to do this through a Zoom platform each month.
My take with the failed merger was a little bit different. In the fall of 2019, it actually became an opportunity for me to, as a new president, to take the time to use Camille and Hazel as a sounding board. As they said, it was the small networking that was beneficial for me, where we were in the middle of the pandemic, where things were going astray, chapter meetings we weren't having anymore, even on a personal level, and then at work, where you thought everything was crumbling around you. Our group that we met every month actually helped me in looking at things that moving forward in rebuilding the chapter. And one of those things came with our discussion in regards to new websites and what they've used. And then I shared what I was going to use. And then also in regards to the bylaws. And the bylaws, actually is going to be a tremendous tool for our chapter, as we haven't updated those in a very long time. So we're going to use that as our template, because out of that merger attempt came out a really solid set of bylaws that I would actually recommend anyone take a look at if they're looking at updating, because it is a great template to have.
ETPA worked with their board and decided to review their bylaws. And so we updated and voted for new bylaws that included a 2-year term for the president and the vice president, rotating at election with the treasurer, so that not all 3 offices are elected at any given time. I think that's been very beneficial to ETPA.
And TAP did the same thing in 2020. We updated our bylaws. I believe that we probably mirror each other in that language, where president, vice president, secretary have 2-year terms. And given the current climate of the COVID world, it does allow those officers a little more time to stretch their legs, so to speak, and learn the ropes and hopefully make a difference. That's what I'm hoping I'm doing.
I think 2020 has been a very challenging year for all of NIGP's chapter presidents. And I'm really proud of the efforts that we've made to come together as a group of 3 and to unite our chapters. It's been vital for all of us.
I agree. It's been extremely important for us. And I would challenge any chapter to do the same thing, even if it's a chapter outside of their state. You never know what you're going to learn from someone else.
I spoke with NIGP yesterday, and they do unofficially keep track of the number of chapter formations. And yes, we are under 100. So I'd like to say that less than 100 people have stood where we are standing today to do this. The numbers that we will touch are huge, but to actually bring a chapter to its feet is very small, because it's not easy. And I'll get to that part in a minute. Chapter creation is a testament to the leaders who came before us. It's a path for future leaders and evidence that the core values NIGP is founded on does work for us. One day in early 2020, pre-COVID, I received a phone call by an area procurement director. We chatted for a bit, and I was asked if I had the support and backing of other directors and leaders, would I consider starting a local chapter? I said yes immediately, because again, hey, you need something done, call me. She advised me to take a few days to think about it and then to present my decision. So I replied, there is no decision but yes to take this on. How hard can it be? That's literally what I said. Those words echo in my ear every day, every single day as I have taken this journey. It has not been an easy journey. Standing a chapter, the legalities of it, the creation of documents, and while NIGP has the things that we need to get where we are, you don't know what you don't know if you've never done something like this. So now, why are we here? That's easy. That's the easiest part. Why are we here? We're here because we want to see the professionals in our area grow and that they have the tools they need to do so. Who wouldn't want to have that? Why this chapter? Why now? Well, I'm actually challenging you. Why not? Why not us? Why not this area? The mission of the Chesapeake Bay Procurement Association is to ignite inclusive leadership and maximize the impact of procurement professionals have on the communities we serve. Ignite inclusive leadership. When I said yes to take on the creation of this chapter, I was not getting this the way I needed to grow both personally and professionally. If I felt this way, I know others in this region are also feeling this way. Ignite. I love what I do. I am one of those 10% that love what they do and chose it by choice. So I want to share that. I want to share it with people who have been in it. I want to bring new people into it. And this is my home. So why wouldn't we do this here where we live? We all want to share that.
So I would like to get started with Christy introducing herself and setting the setting for the answer to what didn't kill me made me stronger.
Hi, Barb. Thank you so much for inviting me to this segment. My name is Christy Varda. I work for Loudoun County Government in Loudoun County, Virginia, and I've been in procurement about 10 years. Prior to that, I was working in the private sector for many years, and I've had a wealth of different experiences. And when the topic came up of what didn't kill me made me stronger, I really thought long and hard. I mean, all of us have had that bad experience with a boss or with somebody in charge or that horrible job. And I was thinking back to little things that I've learned over time. And, and there's always been a few years that have been a little challenging. But one of the things that was really brought to mind was an incident that happened in one of my previous employers where I had done something like we'd been instructed to do. And I got called into my supervisor's boss's office. So my supervisor's supervisor, my supervisor's supervisor. So, this is my boss's boss. And in a not so kind way, he asked me, well, why did you do it that way? And I made the comment, well, that's how the previous contract was set up. And he proceeds to go off in this huge tirade, and all kinds of things being said that weren't necessarily appropriate. And many of you at NIGP may not realize, or any of you that have known me don't realize that I have a little bit of a temper. And I used to have a really short fuse. And when this incident started happening, I almost did my normal knee-jerk reaction and jump right back. But for some reason that time I didn't. But I still was ticked. In fact, I was extremely ticked. And after the incident happened, I turned and walked. I said, fine, I'll take care of it. And I turned around and walked out. And I tried to go to my supervisor, but she was on the phone. And I immediately walked back to my desk and took care of whatever it was. And then I called her later. And she told me that somebody else had witnessed this event and was surprised that I hadn't gone across the desk at this person. And she told me just to kind of calm down because some other things had happened after that, and just take a deep breath because it wouldn't surprise her if that supervisor didn't come to me and apologize for their behavior. So I went home that night and I was still pretty hot. And I'm one of those people, it takes a while for me to calm down. In fact, I'll come to work. I came to work still a little ticked the next day.
Sure.
And I went to her and she was like, look, just, give it time. And sure enough, I got called into that person's office, and he apologized for his behavior.
Wow.
And when I went back to my supervisor, we talked about it, because she goes, she was like, a lot of people would have went straight to HR or something about what happened. And I said, when in the moment that it happened, it made me very angry. But I took a step back and I thought, in the time that I've been here, this has never happened to me. Okay. If this had been something that had been common behavior, I probably would have went down the hall and reported. However, I was willing to take a breath and say, okay, maybe this is something that maybe they were having a bad day.
Okay.
So I was willing to kind of take that step back and think about it and give them the benefit of the doubt. And he did apologize and everything. And it never happened again. Well, I've also learned, if nothing else, that when you're having those moments, when you're in that horrible situation, when you're in that, dealing with that bad boss or whatnot, to reach out to colleagues and friends to ask advice. There was a lady who used to teach some of the classes at Fairfax. And when I was dealing with a really bad boss afterwards, I called her and said, look, this is what's happening. What can I do? What do I do to make this situation better? Because I don't think I can get out of this situation right now. Right. What can I do to make this situation better?
Right. To an extent, I've experienced some public sector insecurity too. Mm-hmm. But I do know from my friends that in the private sector, you can be right and you can be excellent and you can still be out the door for things not within your control. So
absolutely.
But fortunately for all of us, we had that session on resilience several months ago. So go ahead and see either, June or July's episode. I'm sorry, May or June on resiliency. Mm-hmm. So, well, Chrissy, thank you for sharing this story for us. Lord knows you probably have more. And I hope that you get to share them with your friends who ask for assistance.
Thank you, Barb. Okay.
This is an NIDP mentorship moment. Today we'll be coming to you, and every month from now on, with a new segment regarding mentorship, more specifically about the NIGP mentorship program. Now, the NIGP mentorship program has been in full swing with about 25 mentor-mentee partnerships in place since early February this year. And we're looking right now at working on our second set of mentor-mentee matches as we speak. So today I wanted to bring you some participant impressions from the program. And I'm pleased to have one of our mentees on board with us to tell us all about her experience so far with the NIGP mentorship program. So I want to welcome to Way to Grow, Ms. Tracy Garcia, CPPB, who's a senior contract officer for the city of Tucson, Arizona. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. So I'd like to find out, if I could now, a little bit about your experience as a mentee, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So I have a few questions to ask you about the program today. If you're ready, let me know when you're ready.
That sounds great.
Okay. Well, first of all, what inspired you in the first place to decide to become a part of the NIGP mentorship program?
Well, I've been in procurement for about 3 years, a little over 3 years now, and I started to feel like procurement really wasn't my calling. And I wanted to find different ways to find my passion in the profession. I know that some of my colleagues have gone through mentorship programs before, and they've seen a lot of benefit both professionally and personally. So I thought having a mentor might help me find my passion in procurement. And as soon as this opportunity came up, I knew that I had to take it.
I don't blame you. Passion in what you do is a very important part of life. And as a matter of fact, this month, our Radio NIGP theme is all about our work-life balance.
Great.
So with that in mind, how has your experience with the NIGP mentorship program impacted your own personal work-life balance?
This program's had a lot of positive impact on my work-life balance. Working with my mentor, she believes in the importance of having a 5-year plan for our professional life and our personal life. She wants it to include both professional growth and personal goals. So working through this program with her and with this goal of having a 5-year plan, I've learned that my thoughts of working late nights and long hours, making me a better employee, has actually been detrimental. That instead I need to focus on having personal goals and taking time for myself, because having that time to reset and recharge has made me a better employee so that I can tackle the challenges of my profession with a refreshed mindset.
That really makes sense. And as employees, we probably all get a little bit too into things and find ourselves working a little too late. And it's very important to strike that balance between your work and your personal life relationship. Well, it sounds like you got that in hand pretty well. I appreciate that.
Great,
that's great news. So since you've been in the program, we started out in February. And I wanted to know if you have already, hopefully you have one, a favorite success story that you'd like to share with the group today.
Yes, I do. Actually, in the beginning of the program, I told my mentor that I was debating on if I wanted to test for my CPPB certification. And she's really taught me how to face my fears and how to embrace my failures so that I can use them as teachable moments and find my successes in them. So through her encouragement, I applied for the exam and I studied very hard, and I was able to earn my CPPB designation earlier this month.
That's fantastic. And I can't resist. We'd like you to take a look now at the NIGP CPP certification program as well.
I am doing that.
Very good. Okay. I couldn't resist that plug. Now, I'm just curious, if someone came up to you, one of your professional colleagues came up to you, who you feel might benefit from the program, what would you tell them about the NIGP mentorship program?
I've actually had the opportunity to discuss the program with some of my colleagues, and I know that they've had their doubts about what they could bring to this program or what they might get out of this program. And I think there's a couple things. First of all, I think it's important not to set expectations for what you plan to teach or what you may learn from this program, because it's really something that evolves over time. And once you get to know your mentor and your mentee, it changes. And I think if you come to this program with an open mind, that it may very well exceed your expectations, but also that it's not just about mentors giving and mentees taking. It's very much give and take on both sides, that this is a wonderful opportunity to have a one-on-one networking with someone from a different organization, but from a similar organization, and also someone in your same region, where you can share ideas and you can discuss similarities and differences in your organizations. And I think the discussions that I've had with my mentor has really helped me grow, that it's given me the chance to share my successes and my failures and learn from her, as well as much as I hope that she's learned from me. But I think this opportunity has made me a better person, a better professional, and it's given me some ideas and motivation to bring positive change to my organization.
Well, I think you're absolutely right about that, Tracy. Everything you said, including both sides of the equation, mentor and mentee, learning something about themselves and about what they're doing, a little bit about life. Definitely. And I really appreciate that answer. So I've just got one final question for you then.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you, once you've completed the program, would you ever consider becoming a mentor with the program? And why would you consider or not consider doing that?
I think I would. I know before I was a little skittish myself about just being a mentee and what I could learn from this program, but also I think because I've grown so much through the program and I've learned so much from my mentor, I would love the opportunity to pay it forward, because I really think that our procurement profession, that's what it's all about, is paying it forward, learning from each other and creating successes together.
Well, personal growth is what this is all about. That's, matter of fact, why we call this segment Way to Grow. So, Tracy, I want to thank you. I really appreciate all your insightful responses to these questions today.
No problem.
So now that just about wraps up this month's segment of Way to Grow, a radio NIGP mentorship moment. So I want everybody out there to remember you can find us as well as our mentorship Facebook page at www.nigp.org/events/mentorship. And now this is Keith Glatt speaking, and hoping you'll join us again on Radio NIGP next month for another episode of Way to Grow. This is Radio NIGP.
Hello, NIGP colleagues. This is David Nash with Radio NIGP. And today we're going to be talking with Chris Bross in relation to this month's topic on what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Chris, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your procurement background, please?
Absolutely. First, I just wanted to say hello to Dave. And Dave, we go back a long way, and just want to thank you for all your contributions to the public procurement profession. And I'm certainly happy to be here with you today to chat about this this RFP process we went through. My background, I have 30 years of public procurement experience. 5 years I started in federal government experience. And then the last 25 have been with public transportation experience, 25 years here in South Florida.
Okay. And we've chatted about this subject before. You had a rather interesting RFP that you dealt with back 4 or 5 years ago. Could you give us some background on that, please?
Sure. So it was an RFP for a bundled services contract, 7-year contract with a 3-year term renewal. The estimated value of the contract was somewhere roughly around $500 million for the term of the contract. We put the RFP out on the street, and we fielded during the course of it being open, the open period prior to close of the RFP, somewhere around 750 questions for clarification, questions pertaining to the technical specifications or the process itself. We also had a pre-proposal conference, which was pretty standard. I'm sure a lot of the agencies, public agencies, have these pre-bid and pre-proposal conferences as well. And the purpose of the pre-proposal conference is to inform all potential proposers of the instructions of the process, how to best submit their proposals to make sure they are responsive and responsible proposers. So we had the RFP out on the street for longer than your average time frame due to the fact of the technical specifications and the RFP document being very specific, lengthy in nature, also to give proposers enough time, to basically go through the documents, ask the questions that they had, to be able to submit a timely response. So I'm not exactly sure how long we had out on the street, but it was definitely in excess of 60 days. And we received 6 proposals at closing.
Okay. And what happened after you opened the proposals?
So out of the 6 proposals received, 5 proposals were conditioned. They were conditioned to the point to where there was an impact on price and their ability to even perform the services pursuant to the scope and the RFP document. Getting back to what I had said earlier about our pre-proposal conference and instructing these proposers, we had specifically stated that the RFP did not allow for exceptions or conditions to the document. We had warned explicitly to those potential proposers at that time to please not condition their proposals. In addition to that, our RFP document itself explicitly stated that conditions were not to be accepted, and those proposals that were conditioned would be found to be non-responsive. So unfortunately, out of 6 proposals received, 5 had conditioned the proposals to the point where they were not minor irregularities, Dave, but they actually had such an impact on their inability to perform pursuant to the agency's requirements, as well as not even understanding what their cost would be as a result.
Okay. So what happened when after you declared them non-responsive? What happened?
Well, after we determined them to be non-responsive, there's a protest period that we allow for. So all 5 firms, basically had submitted protests, protesting the fact of the determination of the non-responsiveness. We went through a protest process, and it then evolved into it going to court. So we basically went to court. The judge ruled in favor of the agency determination. And after the court ruling, the award went back to the agency's board, and the contract was awarded by the board at that time. And we moved forward with executing the contract.
Wow. Is there some, looking back on it, is there some takeaway, or did you think about, how the process has gone? Would you have done anything differently? Questions along that line.
No, I'm glad you asked that. So the answer is no. We would not have done anything differently. What was imperative in this process, Dave, was making sure that we followed our procurement code, procurement policies and procedures. We followed the RFP document, the instructions to proposers. So, and we basically followed all our processes, procedures, and we are also consistent in our determination. So, it's very important, as procurement professionals, the consistency is what really gives, I believe, vendors a comfort feel for doing business with an agency. And it's all about the integrity of the process, which is the most important. And we felt by, basically making the determination and the board approving the contract, that's exactly what we accomplished. And, I think in doing it all over again, we would have made the same decision.
Cool. Well, it's certainly the discussions we've had about it in the past, it really amazed me to have gone through something like that and coming out on the other end okay is pretty cool. Well, I appreciate you spending time with us today, Chris, and I'm sure some of our folks out there in NIGP will get a couple nuggets out of this that they can use. So thank you very much. And for you folks at NIGP, join us on this conversation. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dave.
Welcome to another session of Visionary Views. I'm Linda Allaire, Radio NIGP staff, and I have the privilege of interviewing Stephanie Dion, NIGP's 2021 Buyer of the Year awardee. Stephanie, hello.
Thank you. Good morning, Linda. Bonjour. Thank you for having me. It's great privilege to be part of Radio NIGP for the first time.
We're very glad to have you here. But for our viewers, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your entity?
Certainly. My name is Stephanie Dion. I'm a strategic sourcing specialist with Manitoba Hydro in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Manitoba Hydro is a crown corporation of the province of Manitoba, and we deliver electricity and natural gas to the entire population of Manitoba.
Wow. Big agency, big responsibility, especially in disruptive events, right?
It is, yes. And we cover a wide geographical area. So we have certainly faced some challenges associated with that.
I'm sure our viewers can appreciate that. Could you just give us a little bit of information, your view, on what a challenge is for you or for your agency post-COVID? And it may actually be something that came up during COVID that you're carrying on with. What's your pressure point?
Certainly right now, we're facing different realities with commodities. I think this is across the board. We see this in North America. Commodity prices are very volatile at the moment. I don't believe this is unique to utilities or to Manitoba. So whether it's a direct result of the pandemic or a side consequence, we're getting inundated with price changes, and our contracts were not always ready for such frequent requests and increases. So I think the times are gone now where we can simply lock in prices for extended period of time and just using a CPI. We have to be a little bit more agile than this in the future.
Very true. We've seen a lot of discussions going on amongst people on NIGP's and site communities about the difficulties that they're experiencing with that sort of thing. Perhaps on that same vein, can you tell us if what kind of impact or pushback you may have had in dealing with suppliers on those particular issues? Because they're probably struggling with the same thing, correct?
Yes, exactly. That's a great question, Linda. Certainly, purely administratively, it's a bit difficult because it needs to be handled on a case-by-case basis. Also, in consultation with other colleagues, the requests for increase are not always substantiated with evidence to support the request. So it makes it a little bit challenging to do the proper analysis and to be able to make an informed decision on whether this is a legitimate request or is just something that's being passed down from the manufacturer. So certainly, sorry, missed it. Okay, sorry. So certainly administratively, it is an increased demand on the workforce, which is already stretched to the limit in many entities. There's no procurement function that I know of that's just sitting around waiting for work. So this has certainly increased their demand on the procurement professionals. And if it's not supported by the adequate contract clauses and justification, it increases the response time in being able to address this in a timely manner. Thankfully, there's a few indices that we can use, a few systems that are available out there. We've seen this on Insight. Like-minded professionals have shared some of the resources that they've been using. Some have a fee, some are free to use. But certainly for some of us, me for sure, not something that I've faced many times before. I was always more focused on services than goods. So for some of the people like me, that would be a very steep learning curve to have to deal with this today as compared to what it was, 6 or 12 months ago.
So from what you're saying about having to deal with something that really hadn't been on the radar in the past, like these fluctuations in pricing and the whole disruption of the supply chain, from a strategic procurement professional perspective, how does that fit you into the leadership hierarchy in your agency for providing information, perhaps to senior management, or perhaps setting new policies and procedures?
So fortunately, I'm part of the strategic sourcing team, and there's a few of my colleagues that have more experience than I do dealing with some of the goods, part of their previous experience in the private sector in manufacturing, in procurement. So that really helps our entity as a whole, because as I said, it's not something that I've been involved in the past. So I'm fortunate to be able to learn from them that from the experience that they've had in their previous employment.
That's wonderful, being able to leverage colleagues like that. And I'm sure that you're going back and looking at all of your terms and conditions in all of your contracts and trying to adjust those pricing redetermination language clauses, whatever they may have looked like before, may be significantly different in the next round of contracts. Would that be a fair statement?
It is, and it requires a lot of data analysis and market analysis, and it's really a technical specialty as part of a professional that not many of us have had. I certainly cannot call myself an expert in that area because as I said, I've dealt mainly with services, but it's certainly exposed to me a new stream of expertise that may be very useful and in high demand in the very near future.
And it's unfortunate that we can't get into the issues around providing services when travel has been restricted, but perhaps that will be the next time we chat.
Yes, there's certainly some unique challenges with services, site visits, travel, as you said, travel restriction, vaccination is probably the next one we're going to be talking about before long.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for joining us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So what do I have to say about that this month? I'll just share a story, my own experience. From when I was a young buyer with Richland County School District 1, I certainly went through an experience that shifted my work-life balance at that time. This was back in 1999 to 2001, and we are following up on last month's segment on work-life balance. At the time, our ED for business operations decided that he wanted to edge out the director of purchasing. That's what we were called at the time. And so the director of purchasing, whose name was Gabriel, he basically, a strange personality, but he wasn't someone who made friends with everybody around him. And so when it all came to a head, it was decided, I guess, that he should be edged out. And so the ED decided to enlist the help of his friend, who was the director of the warehouse at the time. His name was Riley. And so Riley came over and started pushing and pushing and pushing, edging Gabriel on out the way, till it got so stressful for Gabriel that he succumbed to an old alcohol addiction that he had and stopped showing up for work. And so following that, Riley enlisted the help of Janice, who was actually his right-hand person in the warehouse, and Darla, who was second in leadership in the purchasing department. They started devising a plan to pick us off one by one because we would not fall in line with, their vision for the department. Unfortunately, their visions for the department was in many ways unethical and unlawful. And maybe if not their vision, but their behavior. There were some things going on with P cards. There was accepting gifts from vendors or suppliers, I guess I should say, that we called them vendors back then. There was petty cash. They were carrying petty cash in their pockets. And all of them, even though they were exempt, were getting double their salary in overtime. And none of them was spending any extra time in the office. And remember, this was in 1999. We didn't have the same technology that we have now. Nobody was working from home. And so I don't even know why, but I had come into the habit of padding my HR folder with commendations that I got from different colleagues and customers. Anytime someone sent me an email or something like that saying great job, kudos, whatever, I would save them. And then every once in a while, I would send it up to HR for them to put in my folder, much to their chagrin. I guess they figured that my folder was getting too big, but hey, it worked out for me because when I was on maternity leave, they tried to have me fired. And again, I'm not sure why, but when I got back, I went to HR and said, hey, can you let me see my file? So what I found in my file were all of these accommodations that I had put in there and a letter from the HR director saying there's no way in the world you guys can fire this lady while she's on maternity leave. First of all, that's against the law. Second of all, she's got all of these things in her file that's showing that she's performing well. So the plan was that I was the first up. And once they got rid of me, they would start picking up everybody else who would not fall in line. And so I went to see Dr. Ronald Epps, who was the superintendent at that time. Remember, we talked about him last month. And we had a nice conversation. And he assured me, he said, Stacy, I assure you that the person who received the position as director of purchasing would be absolutely qualified to be in that position. And so I walked away from it feeling like we had an understanding that he wasn't going to say that Riley wouldn't be getting the job, but we both had an understanding that Riley was not the person who was going to be most qualified for that position. He didn't know anything about purchasing. What I found with Dr. Epps was that he held true to his word. What happened was once the application process and the interview process was over, the ED attempted to make the offer or send the offer up forward for Raleigh to get the job, and the superintendent blocked it and said absolutely not, looked at it, and they hired someone else. I'll say this, that I was even allowed to witness when he got his call saying that he was not going to be hired, which was a bigger picture. There was a bigger picture there. So because at that time, he actually had phased out his own position as director of warehouse because he didn't feel like it was needed. And so he had no place to go. So Riley ended up going to the finance department. And as a lot of times that they do in government, they'll sit you in a position and you can stay there to the end of the fiscal year. Then you got to find something else to do. So that's what happened to Riley. Janice and Darla. Janice was rifted from the department by the new director. And she was sent out to a school where eventually the principal told her to leave his school and never return. So that was the end of her career for Richland County School District 1. What happened with Darla was that the new director just had her fired. He got over her quickly, and she was fired, and she left procurement altogether, never to return to any procurement position in South Carolina. Now, you might remember that, again, Dr. Epps was a superintendent that we spoke about last month. And around the same time is what was going on with Dr. Cello and Dr. Ted Wachter, right? Remember the story we talked about Ted Wachter? Well, I know that you all have been awaiting my response with regards to what actually happened in that situation. So now Dr. Epps took a completely different stance with Dr. Cello than he took with me. He did not take his request seriously. And what ended up happening was Ted took him to court. Ted took Dr. Epps to court because he felt like he was being negligent in his duty to supervise his subordinates and keep them in order. Ted took Dr. Cello to court for defamation. He sued him for defamation. And of course, he sued Richland County School District 1 because, hey, that's the big fish, right? So the results was that a jury awarded Ted $150,000 in damages. $150,000. The judge came back and reduced that award to $93,000, but Ted also filed or had in play a lawsuit in federal court for civil rights violations. So in response, Richland School District 1 actually came to a settlement with Ted that included the $93,000 and more, totaling $130,000 in order to throw that civil rights lawsuit out and just say, okay, it's done. So they did that. There was $150,000 in legal fees that Richland School District 1 paid. So really they lost a lot of money. What is that, about $300,000, maybe $280,000 on this lawsuit because of, their refusal, or the superintendent's refusal to take control over what was going on with Dr. Cello and Dr. Watcher. So what happened to them? Well, Dr. Cello ended up, I believe, I can't remember if he left the school district on his own. I think he did. And then he ended up going to another school district in South Carolina, but out of the blue, he resigned from that job. Nobody knew why. Nobody knew where he went. I don't know what happened with Dr. Cello. Dr. Epps ended up losing his contract. When it expired, the board let him go. Ted worked at the school for 5 more years and retired and got, a big celebration in the community. Remember, I told you that he himself was a fixture for that community. And also he got legislative honors for the work he did at Rosewood Elementary School. So what do we say to the saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger? Realistically, I'll say to you that adversity can leave us weaker or even broken. Remember, I told you that because of this adversity that Gabriel was going through, he succumbed to his old habits of alcoholism. So I submit to you that the difference in what Gabriel went through and what Ted and I went through is our approach to adversity. And that's what creates the strength. So in my own story about Dr. Epps, I walked away from his meeting with a decision that I was not going to stress out about what was going on in the department. I had already received assurance from the superintendent that I was going to be okay. My file made sure that I was safe. And so I just was not going to worry about it. But there were other people in the department who certainly worried about what was going on. And that really created stress, not only in their work-life balance, but just overall in their daily lives. Moving forward, I want to encourage each of you, because you all are my friends, to be intentional about your approach to adversity. Remember to take care of yourselves, take vacations, find hobbies, spend time doing things that you love, and spend time with people that you love. Never, ever, ever take anything personally, because you cannot control what other people do, but you can control how you react to it. And so I say to you that if you're in a situation, assess it. If it won't matter in 3 years, then just simply let it go, because it's not worth bringing in stress to your body and trauma, which will ultimately make you sick. Now, you can definitely find interesting articles about Ted and his lawsuit online. It was a big deal in South Carolina. And so in newspapers all across the state, there were articles, and they still exist to this day. Of course, I share this story with you from my arsenal of articles that I keep, because I might look okay in brown, but I'll never look okay in orange. Thank you so much.
Hello, friends, and welcome to this edition's commentary. As Bobby started us off, the word of the day is stronger. And you've heard great stories and ways that procurement has demonstrated that throughout this show. So I have to take a step back, though, and when I think about stronger, I have to admit the first thing I think of is what makes us stronger, the E word. Exercise. Now let's face it, if I want my fat flaps to stand up on top of my arm and look like muscles, I have to lift some weights, right? Yes, I know that. I hate to say it, but it's going to require some work. But not just there, I have other weaknesses. My 6-pack abs are buried somewhere under there. I don't know. I haven't seen them in years. And my squat game, well, that's not the best either. But with my weaknesses, sometimes I don't always know where to start. So as I, sit back and enjoy my pizza and eat my Snickers and sip my diet soda, I might contemplate hiring, say, a personal trainer. They would surely know how to help me get stronger, right? That makes perfect sense. I could totally do that. So now you might be thinking, Stacy, bless your heart. We know you have issues, okay? But what does that have to do with me or procurement? I'm glad you asked. It has a lot to do with that. You see, in procurement, we should always be looking for ways to strengthen our skill set and our knowledge. We should be watching our nutrition, if you will, by focusing on those articles and those professional development classes and resources that are going to be more healthy and helpful to us than just that fast food takeout opportunities that aren't going to increase or better our professional health. We should also not be afraid to point out our weaknesses and look for ways to strengthen them. I shouldn't be afraid to point out my professional fat flap, if you will. I should look for ways to strengthen it, train it, and make it better. If I'm not good at RFPs, then I should look for classes and trainings and ways to get better at RFPs, right? I shouldn't try to hide it and camouflage it. I should actually do the work and get better at it, right? Now, I might not ever be a bodybuilder, but I can certainly improve. And when I don't know where to start, maybe I need that personal trainer. Maybe I need that mentor. Or, again, reach out to that network that I've built when I've gone to forum or leadership summit or taken a class and say, you know what, I don't know where to start. What is your experience with this? Can you help me? And that's okay, my friends. That's what it's all about in getting stronger. Build your network, build your team, do the work. Don't look for the answer to just plop, fall in your lap and that muscle to jump up on top. Do the work and do what you need to do, and it'll make the whole profession stronger because of your efforts. Until next time, think about what's going to make you stronger. Bye, friends. Have a great day.